When was the last time you actually thought about the air inside your home? And I don't mean just noticing that the kitchen smells like last night's dinner or, opening a window because the living room feels a little stuffy.
Right, the obvious stuff.
Exactly. I mean, genuinely considering the invisible mixture of gases and particles and all those microorganisms that you are breathing in minute after minute, day after day.
It's funny because we obsess over the quality of our filtered drinking water, right?
Right.
We buy organic produce, we invest in these crazy ergonomic mattresses for our physical comfort.
So for sure.
Yet we rarely give a second thought to the delivery mechanism for the very air we breathe. We just sort of expect our homes to magically provide clean oxygen.
Well, that brings us to today's deep dive, because we are exploring the completely hidden, often ignored world of residential air duct cleaning in Marietta and Atlanta Metro, Georgia.
It's a huge topic. It really is. Our mission today is to uncover what you as a homeowner are probably missing about your indoor air quality. We're going to separate the actual science from the marketing fluff.
Yeah, there's a lot of fluff out there.
So much fluff. So we're relying on official guidelines from the EPA, the Department of Energy, and NADCA, which is the National Standard Setter for Duct Cleaning. Plus, we've got some great data from our sponsor.
Which is super helpful for getting a real-world perspective.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, this deep dive is brought to you by Four Seasons Air Care, LLC. If you're in the Atlanta area, you should dial 404-891-0225. They are powered by the Hurricane Group, providing expert, licensed, and insured residential air duct cleaning.
I think the best place to start here is just defining what we are actually talking about, because the mental image most people have of duct cleaning is just wildly inaccurate.
I'll admit, my mental image was basically just, someone taking a damp rag and wiping down the metal vent cover on the ceiling.
Yeah. Maybe sticking a household vacuum hose a few inches into the hole and then just calling it a day. You clean the grate, the air blows clean, right?
Not even close. I mean, the grate is just the absolute tip of the iceberg. Your forced air HVAC system is this massive, dark infrastructure. It winds through your walls, underneath your floors, up through your attic and your crawl spaces.
It's basically the lungs of the house.
That is a perfect way to put it. It's a really complex network of supply lines, return lines, plenums, and mechanical blowers. And over the years, that vast system just becomes this hidden collection point.
Just hoarding all the dirt.
Exactly. It accumulates layers of regular household dust, microscopic pet dander, and incredibly fine post-renovation particles.
Oh, like drywall dust.
Yes. Think about how drywall dust seems to penetrate literally everything during a remodel. It all gets sucked in there. Crucially, it also gathers outdoor allergens and deals with moisture-related contamination around the cooling coils.
So it's not just a tube pushing air anymore.
No, it transforms into a reservoir for contaminants.
See, I always assumed that as long as I don't see massive dust clouds physically blowing out of my vents when the heat kicks on, the system is fine.
That is such a common misconception.
Yeah.
Usually your nose will know long before your eyes do.
The smell.
Oh, yeah. Musty or stale odors are often the very first indicator. If your house smells like a damp basement every time the blower motor starts, that is a massive red flag.
Okay, let's talk about why that happens, specifically for the listeners dealing with this local geography, because the air outside your house completely dictates the air inside your house.
Right, you're not living in a sterile bubble.
Exactly. If you lived in a perfectly dry desert bubble, maybe your ducts stay pristine for decades. But the data for North Georgia paints a completely different picture.
Oh, North Georgia is arguably the most hostile HVAC environment you could possibly imagine.
Wow, the most hostile...
Pretty much. According to the National Weather Service, summers there feature these long stretches of warm, heavily humid weather. In the Marietta and Atlanta metro areas, climate normals frequently show relative humidity highs pushing well into the 70s.
High 70s humidity, so the air is just sticky, oppressive, heavy with water vapor.
Right. Now consider the physics of what happens inside your ductwork. Your air conditioner runs, right? Yeah. It chills the metal ducts to cool your house.
Makes sense.
But when the system cycles off, that freezing cold metal is just sitting in a heavily humid environment. So warm, moist air interacts with cold metal, creating condensation.
Oh, so the inside of your dark, hidden ductwork is essentially sweating.
Literally sweating. Now, add the infamous Georgia pollen season into that mix. The UGA extension notes that the local pollen season peaks in early to mid-April, and it basically coats the entire state in a thick layer of yellow dust.
Oh, yeah, I've seen the photos of cars in Atlanta during April. They literally look like they've been painted yellow.
Right. And your HVAC system is constantly drawing air from that exact environment.
Right.
So you combine that baseline of condensation and moisture inside the ducts with massive pollen loads drawn in from outside.
Plus the everyday human skin cells and pet dander.
Exactly. And potential attic or crawl space leakage. So now you have provided moisture, you've provided darkness, and you've provided an organic food source.
That sounds like a science experiment.
It is. Your HVAC system stops simply conditioning the air and becomes a biological breeding ground. Springtime return ducts and filters load up rapidly, and the system begins actively circulating those contaminants back throughout your living space.
Wow. Okay, since the environment is that aggressive, shouldn't the industry be telling you to clean these every single year, like changing your car's oil?
You would think so.
Yeah, like just schedule the annual April duct scrubbing and be done with it.
You really would think so based on how some companies market themselves.
Yeah.
But the actual science says otherwise.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the EPA explicitly states that duct cleaning should be treated as an as-needed service. It absolutely should not be a routine calendar task.
Wait, really? No annual cleaning?
No scientific backing for it whatsoever, not on a fixed annual schedule for every single house.
Okay, so you don't just mark it on the calendar. You have to actually wait for the system to give you tangible evidence of contamination. So what is the house actually telling us to look for?
You need to look for substantial, visible mold inside hard surface ducts or on the HVAC components themselves. Or you need to look for vermin infestation, which unfortunately happens way more often than people like to think.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Or you need to see excessive dust and debris actually entering the occupied space.
Yeah.
Industry experts generally recommend looking at a window of every 3 to 5 years.
Okay, 3 to 5 years.
Right. Or more frequently if there are specific driving factors, like say you do a major home renovation or you get multiple shedding pets or you notice sudden unexplained health changes.
Okay, let's break down those health changes. What are the tangible signs someone living in the house might actually experience?
Well, unexplained allergy flares or respiratory issues are major indicators, particularly if those symptoms miraculously seem to worsen when the air conditioning or heating kicks on, and then they improve when you leave the house.
That's a pretty clear cause and effect.
Exactly. Another major physical sign is rapid dust accumulation. If you thoroughly clean your dining room table, and 2 days later, it is already coated in a fine layer of particulate again.
Then your ductwork might be loaded with debris that the blower is just slowly pushing out.
Yep. Finally, you might experience uneven airflow or inexplicably rising energy bills.
Oh, interesting. So if one bedroom is freezing while the living room is roasting.
Right. Or your utility bill just spikes compared to the same month last year. Your system is likely struggling to push air through partially clogged pathways.
Okay, so if you are noticing that rapid dust buildup or you smell that musty odor from the vents or you're getting those allergy spikes, you naturally need someone who knows what they are doing to address it. You need a professional.
Absolutely.
Which is actually why we partnered with the Four Seasons Air Care family for this deep dive. You can reach them at 404-891-0225. They specialize in air duct cleaning GA and a variety of other critical services for both homes and businesses in the Atlanta area.
Finding a reliable contractor is actually one of the biggest hurdles for homeowners in this specific industry.
Because the work is invisible.
Exactly. The work is entirely invisible. You can't easily inspect the middle of a 30-foot trunk line to see if they did a good job. You just have to trust them.
And that invisible nature is exactly why reputation matters so much. I mean, if you look at the 5-star reviews related to their residential air duct cleaning in Marietta and Atlanta Metro Georgia service, the recurring theme isn't just that the air smells better afterward.
Right, it's the process itself.
Yes, it's the professionalism. Customers like Jamie Bernstein highlight how the technicians actually take their time on homes that haven't been cleaned in years. They even return to fix minor issues at no charge just to honor their work.
That's huge.
Or reviews from folks like Teresa Ford, who emphasize the team's patience when dealing with severely dirty ducts. Because, let's be honest, it is shocking to see what comes out of your own walls, so having a patient guide is vital.
Having a comprehensive service provider is also really important because duct issues rarely exist in a vacuum. A moisture problem in the ducts might actually stem from a broader crawl space issue.
Right, and Four Seasons Air Care handles that entire spectrum. Their offerings include comprehensive air duct cleaning GA, crawl space encapsulation, ductwork installation and repair, dryer vent cleaning, disinfection services, HVAC system cleaning, and water damage restoration.
They really cover all the bases.
They do. Again, you can reach them at 404-891-0225. Now, considering the cost of home maintenance, I know a lot of listeners are wondering about the DIY route. Yeah, like why can't I just go to the local hardware store, buy a 20-foot flexible brush, hook up my heavy-duty shop vacuum, and just spend a Saturday doing this myself?
Attempting to DIY this process will almost certainly make your air quality significantly worse.
Worse. Really?
Oh, absolutely. The core issue lies in the mechanics of air pressure and volumetric flow. A standard heavy-duty shop vacuum moves maybe 100 to 150 cubic feet of air per minute.
Which sounds like a lot for a garage spill.
Right, but it is nowhere near enough power to control the environment inside a sprawling HVAC system. The National Air Duct Cleaners Association, NADCA, mandates a standard called source removal.
Meaning, you aren't just masking the problem, you are physically extracting the root cause entirely out of the house.
Exactly. To achieve true source removal, professionals must put the entire duct system under continuous negative pressure.
Just continuous negative pressure.
Yeah, so they connect this massive truck-mounted or high-capacity portable collection device to your main trunk line. This equipment pulls thousands of cubic feet of air per minute. It basically turns your entire duct system into a giant vacuum.
Oh, wow.
Only while the system is under this immense negative pressure do the technicians insert agitation tools to aggressively scrub the walls of the ducts.
Let's pause on the agitation tools for a second. What is actually going into the ductwork to scrub the metal?
Well, professionals use pneumatic air whips and skipper balls.
Wait, skipper balls? That sounds like a plastic pool toy for kids. What is that actually doing inside my ductwork?
It does sound like a toy, but it is a highly specialized heavy-duty nozzle attached to a compressed air line. When it's fed into the ductwork, the compressed air causes the ball to skip, bounce, and thrash erratically down the length of the metal tube.
That sounds intense.
It is. And simultaneously, it blasts 175 psi of compressed air backward. So as it bounces down the duct, violently dislodging decades of caked-on dirt, it is blowing all of that debris backward toward the massive negative pressure vacuum.
That is brilliant engineering.
Yeah, and air whips work similarly, using flailing polymer tentacles to physically scour the duct walls.
Okay, so if I try to use a 20-foot brush without that massive negative pressure machine...
You are simply creating a toxic dust storm inside a closed tube. You agitate millions of mold spores, dust mites, and pet dander particles.
And then what?
The moment you turn your HVAC fan back on, the system blows all of that newly agitated debris straight out of the vents into your lungs and all over your furniture.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
It is. This is the critical difference between true source removal and the cheap blow-and-go coupon scams you see advertised online.
I've seen those ads. $20 a vent or whatever.
Exactly. Scammers show up with a shop vacuum. They clean the first 3 feet of the vent so it looks shiny to the homeowner, and then they leave the remaining 90% of the system completely untouched.
You know, I always compare cheap vent cleaning to brushing just your front teeth. Sure, when you smile, you look okay for a passing glance. But if you don't clean the molars, the gums, the root, if you don't use continuous negative pressure and those pneumatic agitation tools to clean the entire trunk line, the return ducts, and the blower motor, the contamination is still there.
Yep, the decay is still happening at a site.
You have to clean the whole system.
And the EPA guidance explicitly reinforces your dental analogy. If a single contaminated component is left dirty, it can easily cross-contaminate the entire system the second the blower motor turns on. You must address the supply lines, the returns, the cooling coils, and the blower assembly simultaneously.
So all of this debris gets blasted loose and sucked into the collection machine. Now, I hear the term HEPA thrown around constantly with these vacuums, capturing particles down to 0.3 microns. I can't even visualize 0.3 microns. How small is that compared to something relatable like a human hair?
A single human hair is roughly 70 microns in diameter.
Wait, 70? So we are talking about capturing particles that are a microscopic fraction of the width of a single hair.
Exactly. We are capturing the invisible threats: mold spores, fine pollen, combustion dust from cooking or candles. HEPA filtration ensures that once the massive vacuum pulls these microscopic particles out of your ducts, they are trapped in the machine.
So they aren't simply exhausted out the back of the vacuum into your living room.
Precisely.
Okay, let's talk about the health outcomes of capturing all those microscopic threats. Does a professional cleaning actually cure allergies? Because I know a lot of people schedule this service hoping it serves as a medical silver bullet for their morning sneezing fits.
We have to look at the realistic perspective provided by EPA data here. Duct cleaning alone is not a guaranteed medical cure. The EPA states that studies have not conclusively demonstrated that duct cleaning by itself prevents health problems.
Right. I mean, it's a house, not a sterile hospital operating room.
Exactly. However, the data changes dramatically when you combine comprehensive source removal with a modernized filtration strategy.
What does that mean?
Once the decades of buildup are removed, you maintain that clean state by upgrading to high-efficiency filters, specifically those rated MRV 13 to 16. The AirNow government database reports that true high-efficiency filters in that range can reduce indoor particulate matter by as much as 95%.
Oh, wow. So you wipe the slate clean by removing the breeding ground, and then you install a MRV13 filter to act as a permanent guard at the gate, stopping the Georgia pollen from ever building up that thick layer again.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll just go buy the thickest, most expensive filter at the hardware store tomorrow.
I would strongly advise against that. Doing that could completely destroy your HVAC system.
Wait, how? Isn't a thicker filter always better for the air?
It is better for the air, but potentially fatal for the equipment.
Seriously?
Yes. A highly dense MRV16 filter creates immense physical resistance. The blower motor has to work incredibly hard to suck air through that thick material.
Oh, I see.
If your blower motor isn't rated for that level of resistance, the filter will literally suffocate your HVAC system. The airflow drops to a crawl, the cooling coils freeze over into a block of solid ice, and the blower motor burns itself out trying to pull air that isn't there.
That sounds like a very expensive mistake. So how do you know what filter your system can safely handle without destroying the motor?
This brings us back to the technical stack professionals use. A qualified technician utilizes an instrument called a digital manometer.
A manometer?
Yeah, it measures static pressure. Think of static pressure like blood pressure for your HVAC system.
Or like trying to drink a thick milkshake through a tiny cocktail straw. The harder you pull, the more resistance you feel.
That is a perfect physical representation. The manometer tells the technician exactly how much resistance the system is currently fighting. They measure the static pressure before and after the cleaning.
Okay, that makes sense.
If they find that your system is already struggling with high static pressure, maybe because of crushed flexible ductwork in the attic or, undersized return vents, they will warn you against using a restrictive MRV16 filter. Diagnosing the airflow is just as critical as removing the dirt.
So we're stopping allergens from suffocating our lungs, but we have to ensure we don't suffocate the HVAC system itself.
Exactly.
That dynamic transitions us perfectly into the financial ROI of a clean system. What does all of this mean for our wallets? How does giving the house a clean respiratory system actually save money on the monthly utility bill?
The Department of Energy and Energy Star track this meticulously. Their data shows that leaky or poorly performing duct systems can waste 20 to 25% of heating and cooling energy.
20 to 25%. That is a staggering loss. For every $100 a homeowner spends cooling their house during a brutal Atlanta August, $25 might just be vanishing into a hot attic or a damp crawl space.
Literally just throwing it away.
Explain the physical process of how dirt inside a metal tube actually wastes my money.
It comes down to the blower motor and the cooling coils. The blower motor is the heart of the system, right? It pushes the volumetric air. The coils are where the actual heat transfer occurs. Now imagine a blower motor whose fan blades are coated in 1/8 of an inch of caked-on dust and pet hair.
The blades lose their aerodynamic shape. They become blunt and heavy.
Right, so the motor suddenly has to spin much harder, pulling more electrical amps, just to move the same volume of air. It runs hotter and consumes more power.
Okay, and what about the cooling coils?
Well, they get icy cold in the summer, but they don't actually create cold air. They absorb the heat out of the warm air blowing over them.
But dust is an incredible thermal insulator.
Yes. Dust, pet hair, and biological growth form a dense insulating blanket over those metal coils. When the warm air blows across the insulated coil, the heat cannot penetrate the dust barrier to reach the cold metal.
So the heat transfer process is severely crippled.
Exactly.
So the air blowing out of the vent isn't as cold as it should be. Then the thermostat in the hallway realizes the room isn't cooling down fast enough, so it forces the outside compressor to keep running.
You've got it.
The system has to run for 45 minutes instead of 20 minutes just to drop the room temperature by a single degree.
You're paying for your air conditioning compressor to run twice as long, pulling heavy electrical loads to deliver less physical comfort. By removing that insulating blanket of debris from the coils and restoring the aerodynamic efficiency of the blower motor, you stop the HVAC system from overworking.
You are extending the lifespan of a piece of mechanical equipment that costs thousands of dollars to replace.
Precisely.
So what kind of efficiency recovery can a homeowner actually expect? Because we aren't promising magical $0 energy bills here.
No, of course not. The targets are very realistic. For homes in the Marietta and Atlanta metro area, targeting a 15 to 25% efficiency recovery window is entirely reasonable.
That's significant.
It is, provided the cleaning is part of a broader corrective scope that addresses the static pressure, the leaks, and the dirt together. You aren't creating new efficiency. You are literally recovering the baseline efficiency that the dirt and neglect stole from your system over the years.
That makes total sense. Let's synthesize everything we've uncovered in this deep dive. Your HVAC system is the literal respiratory system of your house. What it breathes in, you breathe in.
Exactly.
Clean air isn't just an aesthetic luxury. It is absolutely essential for your daily respiratory health, your physical comfort during those brutal 70% humidity Georgia summers, and of course, your financial well-being.
Couldn't have said better.
We've learned that you don't need to do this every single year, but when the house gives you the signs, the rapid dust accumulation, the musty odors, the inexplicably rising utility bills, you cannot ignore it. And you cannot fix it with a hardware store brush and a shop vacuum. You need a trusted professional utilizing continuous negative air technology.
Right. You need a team that comprehensively understands the unique climate challenges of North Georgia, the moisture condensation, the intense April pollen loads, and a team that possesses the technical gear to diagnose static pressure and airflow, rather than just wiping down the visible vent covers and leaving the root cause behind.
The solution is straightforward. You need to literally call the sponsor now. Residential Air Duct Cleaning in Marietta and Atlanta Metro Georgia. Phone 404-891-0225. That connects you directly to the Four Seasons Air Care family, powered by the Hurricane Group. They have the massive truck-mounted vacuums, the pneumatic air whips, the digital manometers, and the deep local expertise required to properly diagnose and restore your home's respiratory system back to peak operational performance.
I want to leave you with one final lingering thought to consider. We spend vast amounts of time, energy, and money meticulously curating the visible aesthetics of our living spaces. We select the perfect ergonomic furniture. We choose specific paint colors to make a room feel inviting. We buy air purifiers for the bedside table.
Oh, we really do.
But what else is quietly growing, accumulating, and hiding in the unseen dark infrastructure behind your walls, silently dictating the actual quality of the life you live inside that carefully curated home?
That is a question absolutely worth thinking about the very next time you hear your air conditioner kick on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.